Are you ready to be amazed by the audacity of the world's most notorious con artists? From the original confidence mans who convinced strangers to lend him their gold watch, to the Soho scammer who infiltrated New York's elite, history is filled with individuals who have pulled off the impossible. Join us as we delve into the top 5 greatest cons in history. Get ready to be shocked, amazed, and entertained by the cunning tactics of these notorious con artists. Subscribe to our channel now and never miss an episode of this fascinating journey into the world of deception and trickery. Number 5. Gregor MacGregor, the Scottish financier who invented a country. In the early 19th century, Gregor MacGregor, a Scottish financial schemer, saw an opportunity to make a fortune from the excitement over Latin American investments. European investors were looking for new places to put their money, and Latin America looked like an attractive option with its growing economies and high-yielding bonds. MacGregor decided to take advantage of this and created his own Latin American country called Poyais on the coast of Honduras. He was able to convince hundreds of investors to buy Poyais government bonds and even went as far as to convince dozens of Scottish families to emigrate to this made-up nation. Unfortunately, instead of finding friendly natives and fertile soil, the settlers found malaria and malnutrition, and 2/3 of the original 250 Scottish settlers died. The British Navy had to be deployed to turn back more ships that had set sail for MacGregor's promised land. Despite this failure, MacGregor did not give up and tried the same con again in France, but this time he was caught and thrown in jail. In total, MacGregor raised €1.3 million by selling fake government bonds, which is worth roughly $5 billion today. Pursued by angry investors, he died in exile in Venezuela. Number 4. Simon Leviev, the Tinder swindler. Simon Leviev, also known as the Tinder swindler, was a con artist who used the popular dating app Tinder to scam a series of successful and beautiful European women out of an estimated $10 million. Leviev was able to charm his victims by presenting himself as the heir to an Israeli diamond industry fortune, and he seemed to have the money to back it up. He would fly his new girlfriends around on his private jet, treat them to lavish meals and stays at 4-star hotels, and all of it was paid for by the last woman who fell for his scam. However, once the relationship was getting serious, Leviev would reveal that his life was in danger and that he needed to send money from a third-party account so that it couldn't be tracked. The worried girlfriends would comply, charging tens of thousands of dollars to their credit cards or even sending him a suitcase of cash. Leviev would then disappear, using the swindled money to fund his next con. Leviev, whose real name is Shimon Hayut, served just 5 months for similar schemes that he committed in Israel, but he has evaded criminal charges for his European cons. As of now, he is a free man and is even considering a career move to Hollywood. His con was the subject of a Netflix documentary. Number 3. Natwarlal, the king of cons. Natwarlal, also known as Mithilesh Kumar Srivastava, was India's most infamous con artist and was often referred to as the king of cons. He was a master of disguise, a talented forger, and a skilled actor, and he used his talents to perpetrate some of the most outrageous scams in Indian history. Natwarlal was known for selling the Taj Mahal to tourists, forging the signature of the Indian president, and escaping from prison multiple times. One of Natwarlal's favorite scams was to pose as a personal assistant to a dignitary or politician and enter a jewelry store. He would place a large order for expensive watches, claiming that they were to be presented at a special government ceremony. When it was time to pay for the watches, Natwarlal would arrive in a chauffeured car and take the jewelry store clerk to a bank. There, he would present a perfectly forged cashier's check for the full amount. By the time the check bounced, Natwarlal was long gone. Natwarlal was a man who took great pride in his ability to outsmart the authorities. He once claimed that no prison could hold him for more than a year, and he wasn't far off. Despite being sentenced to 113 years in prison for dozens of scams, he only served 20 of them. He was known for his daring escapes, including breaking out of the Kanpur jail in a smuggled guard's uniform and paying off the guards with a suitcase filled with cash that turned out to be old newspapers. In India, The term Natwarlal has become synonymous with a particularly gifted swindler, and Natwarlal himself was the inspiration for the 1979 Bollywood thriller Mr. Natwarlal. The exact date of Natwarlal's death is somewhat of a mystery, with some sources claiming that he died in 1996 and others claiming that he died in 2009. Nevertheless, his legacy lives on, and he remains one of the most notorious con artists in Indian history. Number 2. Anna Delvey, the Soho Scammer. Anna Delvey, also known as the Soho Scammer, was a con artist who made headlines in the mid-2010s for her elaborate schemes and her ability to infiltrate the inner circles of the wealthy and famous. From 2013 to 2017, Delvey was a fixture in the New York social scene, attending European art exhibitions, exclusive nightclubs, and staying in $4,000 a night hotels. She was known for her vague European accent, her haughty couture clothing, and her habit of tipping with crisp $100 bills, which helped to give the impression that she came from a wealthy background. However, Delvey's schemes began to unravel in 2017 when she was kicked out of multiple New York City hotels and restaurants for failure to pay her bills. This led to her appearing in a New York Post article under the headline "Wannabe Socialite Busted for Skipping Out on Pricey Hotel Bills." Delvey's real name is Anna Sorokin, a Russian-born German citizen who was able to successfully con her way into the inner circles of the rich, young, and gullible. Sorokin was able to convince her victims to cover her expenses by promising to pay them back, but she never did, and they were too embarrassed to bring it up. Despite her schemes, Sorokin was eventually caught and served more than 3 years in prison. She is currently in US immigration custody, and her story has been fictionalized in the Netflix drama Inventing Anna. Number 1. Charles Ponzi and his infamous scheme. Charles Ponzi is a name that has become synonymous with investment fraud and scams. He lived from 1882 to 1949 and is best known for his Ponzi scheme, which he ran in the 1920s and which resulted in the loss of millions of dollars for his investors. The Ponzi scheme is now a commonly recognized type of investment fraud, and it is named after Charles Ponzi himself. Ponzi's scam was a classic example of a too-good-to-be-true investment opportunity. He promised his investors that he could double their money in just 3 months by buying and selling international reply coupons, a type of prepaid postage that could be used for international mail. The details of how he planned to make these profits were vague, but the early investors in his scheme saw quick returns on their investment, which helped to attract even more investors to the scheme. At the height of his scam, Ponzi was receiving an estimated $1 million per week from eager Americans who were banking their futures on his incredible investment opportunity. Unfortunately, the money that was coming into the scheme was never actually invested in any real security. Instead, Ponzi and his accomplices simply used the money from new investors to pay back the early investors and to line their own pockets, of course. When the Boston Post exposed Ponzi's scam, he was thrown in prison, and his investors lost their homes and life savings. Despite the efforts of the authorities to stop him, Ponzi's legacy lives on, and Ponzi schemes continue to fool otherwise smart people with the promise of quick and easy profits. Overall, Charles Ponzi is a cautionary tale of what can happen when people are lured in by the promise of easy money. His scam serves as a reminder of the importance of thoroughly researching any investment opportunity before handing over your hard-earned cash, and of the dangers of letting greed cloud your judgment. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of deception and trickery. We hope you enjoyed learning about these infamous con artists and their cunning schemes. If you want to stay informed about the latest in the world of crime and deception, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We'll be bringing you new episodes every week, so don't miss out. Until next time, stay vigilant and watch out for the con artists in our midst.